Afternoon, YouTube. Today we're going to look at how to decide or how to pick out what your first ham radio is going to be. If you just got your ticket and you don't have a radio yet, you're still kind of overwhelmed with all the choices out there. This is kind of going to get you started on how to pick how you want to operate, where you want to operate, and what kind of radio you want to have. I've been licensed since 1990, I think near the end of 93, maybe the beginning of 1994. So I bought a few radios in my day, but the very first radio I bought was actually not a radio at all. It was a scanner that I got before I got my license at Radio Shack. And then afterwards, I was fortunate. I lived in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We had a couple good ham radio stores and some guys that could kind of guide me on how to buy those radios. Radios have gotten a lot cheaper since then. I mean, I paid $400, it seems like, in 1994 for an old Yaesu. I think it was an FT70 handheld. Nowadays, as you're going to see, you can get them a whole lot cheaper than that.
KLW.
Let me turn that radio off. Okay, so here we go. Let's get started and let's see what we got. Okay, so a couple basic things you might want to consider. First and foremost, how do you plan to operate? Do you want something that you can carry around with you all the time, like maybe a handy talkie? Do you think you're going to be in the car most of the time driving around? You want a mobile radio? Or, would you rather have one set up like up here and, set up at the house? Oops, that was loud. Set up at the house more like a base station. There are a lot of different options, and you're not limited to just one. You can do multiple, obviously, but how much you want to spend is definitely something you want to consider here. So, for example, let's start with handheld radios. Okay, you can get a Baofeng UV5R for about 30 bucks. Maybe less, depends on when you get it. It's not a bad radio, a little Chinese-made radio. I've actually got a few of those. They're at school right now where we're starting up our ham radio club. But you can get those. You tear it up, you're not terribly heartbroken because it's 30 bucks. You can get some of the older. This is one of those, I think they pronounce it Woshin, but it's a Wuxon. I've had this one for a while. Same thing. 30, 40 bucks probably. I'm not even sure you can buy these new anymore, but there's a huge second-hand market for ham radio equipment. You just need to buyer beware on that stuff. Maybe you're more interested in not just carrying one around and talking locally, which that's about what you're going to get with a handheld radio. You'll have line of sight, which is, you might get a couple miles out of a handy talkie from radio to radio. If you're fortunate and you have a repeater that's up high, then you can get a little bit more than that, or significantly more depending where that is. But maybe you want to be able to talk around the world using a handy talkie, and you're thinking, well, maybe a digital mode that combines amateur radio with the internet, something like DMR, D-Star, or something like that. You can get one of these dudes. This is the B-Tech DMR 6X2 radio. And I've actually got a review coming up on this guy. But this thing is right about $220, I think. It does VHF, UHF, so that's 2 meters and 70 centimeters. And it does DMR. It's not a bad little radio. If you're just looking for something you want to drive around with, let's go take a look at what's in the truck. Okay, so out in the truck, it's an ICOM 2100. It's a 2-meter radio. I think it puts out 75 watts, maybe it's 50, I don't remember. It's actually just sitting in the little compartment there. You do have to have an external antenna for this. I think these guys now are 100 and I'm saying less than 150. I'd have to look it up to see. It comes with a nice little speaker mic with controls so you can control the radio from there. But like I said, you need more than just the radio here. Okay, you're going to have an antenna. So let me show you what I've got for that. Okay, for an antenna, what I have is you can actually get these dudes. These are little brackets that are custom made, like for your vehicle or your truck. I think I paid something like $12 or something like that on eBay for this thing, and this guy makes these. You just give him the model and the year of the truck, and basically you don't drill anything. It just, I don't know how well you can see that, but right under here is a pre-existing bolt. You undo it, you put this in there, you rebolt it on. You do have to run coax and run it down through your firewall. And the same thing with power. You run the power through there and hook it up to your battery or to your fuse block to be safe. So it takes a little bit more to get that installed, but it's a lot cleaner looking install than some of the other options. The other option, if you don't want to do anything like this, is a mag mount antenna. And that's just what it sounds like. It's an antenna similar to this. That instead of being mounted to this is stuck on a big magnet, and that magnet would just go up on the roof. It tends to be a bit of a messier installation because, well, that wire has to come in somewhere. So a lot of times you'll see guys and they've got, you know, a coax line coming down and through the door. If you don't mind that, then hey, go for it. It's quick, it's cheaper. You can get, I want to say like a Nagoya brand mag mount antenna for like $20 or something like that, maybe $30 on Amazon. Shop around, you can get deals on that stuff, but that's an inexpensive way to do it. Most of your mobile radios do come with the power cord. In fact, I don't know that I've ever seen one that doesn't. So you don't have to spend money on that. So if you put it in the truck or the car, you've got the cost of the radio and the cost of an antenna somehow or another. They also have, if you have a car, they make these little lip mount things that like can go on the trunk, and you can have the antenna coming right off the bat. I will caution you, be careful with, well, not necessarily be careful, but where you put the antenna on the car does affect the gain the antenna gets. So, because the car is going to function as the ground plane for it, so just keep that in mind. But I'm not thinking it's a huge deal. So you can get a little trunk lip mount right there, mount that antenna on the back, take the antenna in through under the carpets up to the radio, and boom, you're in business. Okay, this is actually a mobile radio. Let's see if I can get that to focus well for you. I have it set up in the shack as more like a bass transceiver. This is one of those Anytone, I think it's 778 UV. Little Chinese made guy. It gets 25 watts out. It's a good little radio. It's like $120, man, for this thing. It does VHF, it does UHF. It, you know, has a dual listen, dual watch. It's got a nice little speaker mic with keypad on it. So overall, that's not a bad little radio. $120. I will go ahead and tell you though, if you're going to get a mobile radio for in the house, it takes more than just that $120. Okay, because you're going to have to get a power supply. Okay, you can get a power supply. I've seen some on Amazon for $40 and $50. To get one from like R&L Electronics or one of those places, you know, the big dealers for ham radio stuff, you're looking at somewhere around 100, 100 and a half. Granted, that one I just had on the screen, that's a Trip Lite 15 amp. You don't need a 15 amp for this guy, but keep that in mind. It's more than just the cost of a radio, because you have to have that. You're going to have feed line and an antenna outside for this radio as well. So the Handy Talkie, the handheld radio, definitely cheaper to get into, but it's a little more limited. This thing right here, I can talk to the repeater in Oxford, which is like 20, I don't know, 20 some miles away, and I can hit it without any problem at all. Okay, so all that to say, it really doesn't take a fortune to get your first ham radio. I printed off and kind of went through a few sales and a few deals that you can get right now, just to give you an idea. If you don't want a Baofeng, which a lot of folks don't, but a lot of people do want a Baofeng, $30, man, you can't hardly beat that. But like I said, you can get a mobile rig. You can get the Yaesu FT2980. That's an 80-watt mobile rig. It's like $179 or something like that. You can get a handheld, the Yaesu FT4 VR handheld. After rebates, you can get that sucker for $30. It's a 2-meter handheld, but $30. That's one of those little micro compact ones. Kenwood, the THK20A. It's $125. It's a 2-meter handheld. Same thing with an Icon. Maybe you're an Icon person. You want to go with one of those. The IC V86. It's a 7-watt 2-meter handheld. Get that right now for $110. Maybe you want a mobile rig. You want a dual band mobile rig, not one of the Chinese-made ones. Get you a Kenwood TMV 71A. That's a dual bander. It's $320. Yeah, it's a bit more, but it's a Kenwood. The point is, it doesn't cost a fortune to get that first radio. The key is to pick what you want, to identify how you want to operate, and go from there. You can even get into some HF stuff for, $400 or $500 new. Less than that if you want to go, QRP stuff like that. There are some, how do you say that, Zigu or however you say that. There are a couple other brands out there that are less, but you can get an entry-level new HF rig, $500. And then go to some ham fest, go to your local club meeting, meet up with some guys. Maybe somebody will kind of help you, determine used gear. If you want to go with a used piece of equipment, $500-600, you can get a really nice used HF radio. The point is, though, like I said, don't think that it's going to cost a fortune to get that first radio. Just pick what you want. Don't worry about what everybody else says. There's a lot of people who, are Baofeng haters or just generally Chinese radio haters. But if it works for you, who cares? Let it work for you. Like I said, also, DMR radios open up the whole world with a handheld. With that and a little hotspot, you can power the hotspot off of a little battery pack for just, days if you get a big one of those, those little cell phone booster packs. Power that sucker, tie it into your internet connection on your mobile hotspot on your phone. That way you have it with you pretty much anywhere you have data on your cell phone, and you've got the entire world open to you for $200. So, most important thing, don't just let your license sit there. Get yourself a radio. Get into it. Get on the repeater. Don't be afraid. Get out there and start talking, and you'll continue to grow in the hobby. So that's it for now on how to help pick out your first ham radio. Like I said, there's a huge range of them to pick from. Just, pick the one that works for you. Any questions or anything, feel free to comment below. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions, and there are plenty of other people out there who will answer them for you. That's it for now. Hit like, hit subscribe. I do appreciate it. Y'all take care.